Welcome in to Bruins Benders post-game live. It is Smitty. It is Producer Connor. It is a travesty. It is one of the worst games of the season. It is a big white flag waved by this team that says, we surrender. Let's sell off all the pieces. If this game didn't make you want to shove sharp objects into your eyeballs, I'm not sure what would. Just awful from start to finish. Turnovers all over the place. You know, one of the worst offenses in the league. And we've talked about it all year long. This Bruins team is a get-right game for anyone else on their schedule. Steven Stamkos didn't have a point since January 23rd or something like that. That's 3 points tonight, I believe, for Stamkos. 3?
I'm checking right now. He had an assist.
Goal and 2 assists. Yep, 3 points.
2 assists.
So snaps out of that thing. Ryan O'Reilly with 2 goals and an assist. 2 guys that have absolutely killed you in the past and left you for dead. Tonight, do you a favor and beat you. And now you have your next 3 games against Carolina, Tampa, in Florida.
Not a big deal.
That is LLL. And hopefully this will get the bosses over there, the management, the front office team, to sell off everyone.
Well, I think we should probably start there then, right? I mean,
yeah,
we got at least one sale going on today with Trent Frederick heading to the.
Give us a breakdown on that trade.
Trent Frederick and Max Jones to the Edmonton Oilers for a 2nd and a 4th round pick, and the signing rights to insert prospect A. I don't even recall his name.
Max something or other.
The Bruins retained 50% of Trent Frederick's salary.
Max Warner.
Oh yeah, Max Warner.
Yeah. Large wiener. Max Warner. No, whatever. Close enough.
The Bruins retained 50% of Frederick's salary, ship him to New Jersey. They retain the additional, technically 25%, but 50 of the 50.
Yeah.
And then ship him back to Edmonton. So they get him for around $500,000 a year on the AAV for the rest of the season, if he returns before the end of the season. The Bruins, of course, the most important part of this, they get rid of one-hand Freddie. They get rid of Max Jones, and they get a 2nd and a 4th round pick in return.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people are questioning the return. I don't know why. He's hurt. He hasn't done anything all year. He's had a down year. And he was a late first himself. And you get the second that you get from Edmonton is actually St. Louis's 2nd. So you can cheer for the Blues to be bad, and the worse the Blues are, the worse they finish, the better that 2nd round pick is going to be. So there's an excuse to cheer against a team that you already should be cheering against if you are a Bruins fan because of what happened in 2019. So another little thing there that can make you happy when you're watching the Bruins lose. You can root for other teams to lose too. But I like the return overall. I do. A 2nd, you get rid of Max Jones too. He was signed for another year, so you get out from underneath that thing. So yeah, that's all good. And the prospect, I've heard kind of mixed reports. I've heard he's big. He's a defensive defenseman. He plays with a little bit of bite. All that part is good. I heard he's a pretty good skater, and he has like 7 or 8 goals in the AHL this year, which is nothing to sneeze at on a team like the Bruins that can't produce anything from the back end. So he might be, a little bit of a diamond in the rough. He's still only 21. If they do move Carlo out, which is a distinct possibility, I think, you may be looking at a very poor man's Carlo replacement there. So, because he is a right shot D as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that kind of gets pointed out a lot is Don Sweeney's absolutely terrible at drafting. But with the first round picks, awful. Second round picks, he's got Poitras, Lohrei, Carlo, Ryan Lindgren, Lozon, Studnicka, JFK, and Axel Anderson. Not too shabby.
The first bunch you mentioned, not too shabby. From the JFK on, that's not great. But, the first half of that, for second round picks, that's not a bad track record there. So, I'm hopeful, and I think a majority of our audience is probably hopeful that he will not be in charge of making those picks. I think, and I hope, when this season is over, he is relieved of his duties, and he's not allowed to be at the draft in any capacity with the Boston Bruins. I don't want him near the draft room. I don't want him near the team anymore. I want him to stay far away from the team, lock himself in his little office, and trade away all the players. That's what I want him to do right now.
And it is worth mentioning that the second round pick is this year. The fourth round pick is in next year's draft.
Correct.
So, whatever. Maybe Sweeney makes it, maybe not. I mean, we did see on Twitter towards the end of the game here, or X, excuse me, that there was some fire Sweeney chants popping off in the Garden.
There were. And I would have joined in if I was there. I am behind that. I can relate to it. I have wanted it for a long time. So I certainly would have been chiming in myself if I was at the Garden tonight. Our good friend Jimmy Just Raged, who has been on the in the comments here, was at the game tonight, and he was chiming in with the Fire Sweeney chants, and he is not a fan of the team, but he got cheap tickets and he brought his girlfriend. So there you go.
Hey, I mean, they're probably going to get
even cheaper
and cheaper as we go here, but we'll get back to the game. This one started off like an absolute wet fart. They got outshot 14-5 in the first period. And I think what stood out more to me than the first period itself was the first period intermission. If you were watching Nesson and you are a fan of this show, that was a fucking treat to hear almost the entire broadcast trash this team. And Billy Jaffe straight up said, "I admire you for being such a positive guy, Dale." And he basically just went on about how the team sucked. And they went back to the regular broadcast, and here comes Tuukka Rask in the beginning of the second, and Tuukka Rask dragging the team. And one of the most glaring things that they talked to him about was, when you played for this team and you experienced a period like that, would you say something in the locker room? And he said, I can count on one hand the amount of times that I did that in my entire career. And then he softly said, but I would have did it after that one.
Yeah.
And then, wait.
Okay, go ahead.
There's more.
Oh, there is.
And then he said, back in my day, with the leadership core we had, that wouldn't have happened, and that wasn't necessary. Which leads me to believe that he agrees with a lot of the rest of us that there is a leadership problem now in the Boston Bruins locker room, or a lack of leadership, not necessarily a problem in the leadership.
Yeah, there's a lack of leadership. There's a lack of accountability. I think we've talked about that. I think the players say the right things to a certain degree. But, you're missing Marchand, who definitely sets the tone, whether you think he should be captain or not. He plays the right way. I mean, he plays hard all the time. Whether he's making mistakes or not, he's playing hard all the time. So he sets the right tone there. And McAvoy, same thing. I would say he plays hard most of the time. Whether he's making mistakes and dumb plays is a different story, but he plays hard. And those guys are both out. Hampus Lindholm is out. So, they're definitely missing a leadership component right now. But overall, I think it's a bigger picture issue that McAvoy probably shouldn't be a captain. He's still kind of younger in the league. I think he's still deferring to some other guys on the ice. So I don't want one of my leadership guys deferring to other guys. It's just not the way it should be. They need more of a veteran presence in there, and not Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle can say all the right things, but he has been a huge disappointment this year. A huge disappointment, like monumentally disappointing. So I would look to trade him. If you could trade him, I would do it. And I don't care if it's for a bag of pucks right now at this point. I want him off my hockey team. I need a culture change. I need a culture shakeup. I need more assholes. I need more competitive guys. I need a different mix of players going forward on this team, and ownership. Well, not ownership, but management as well. Because ownership will never sell.
Wait a minute.
I mean, I would like new ownership, but ownership will never sell. So that's a moot point. But they need a huge shakeup, and a lot of those guys have been there for a long time, and they're very, very comfortable enough. Comfortable enough to bitch about the coach and get the coach fired, and get another coach fired. And now we're on a third coach who's going to get fired because he stinks. Like Sacco has no idea what he's doing. None. Mr. Positivity after every loss. Like, what good is that doing you, buddy? Now you just lost to Nashville. You're going to come out and be positive after this one? Like, enough with the positive bullshit after losses. You just got your ass kicked by one of the worst teams in the league who hadn't had a road win since the end of fucking January. And you're going to come out here and be like, well, it was disappointing, but not devastating. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, seriously, shut up.
Since I don't have the time to put it under here, I'll just read some of the quotes, right?
Oh.
Sacco, we gave the puck to them too much.
That's true.
Coyle on the Frederick trade. It's hard to see a guy like that leave. He's been such a good friend to me. I could go on and on about Trent, but it wouldn't do it justice.
Yeah, whatever.
We should be ready to go. Also, Coyle. We should be ready to go, especially against a team that's not in playoff contention. You don't say. Interesting.
Yeah, you're not in playoff contention either, Charlie. Like these guys' opinions of their own team is like vastly inflated. Like, they think they're good for some reason. They do. And they're not. So I don't know where, like, you are what you are, as Bill Parcells used to say. If you're a shitty out of the playoffs team, that's what you are. You're not we were in the playoffs last year and took, the Stanley Cup champions to fucking 6 games. No, you are what you are right now. You're a team that can't fucking win road games. You suck at home now all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're a bad team. You're bottom 5 in the league in goal differential. Your offense sucks. Your defense sucks. Your goaltending sucks. You don't have any good players offensively, with the exception of Pastrnak and maybe Morgan Geekie now. Maybe. Sets a career high in goals with 20 tonight. So good for him. Congrats. Trade his ass. Trade him. Now, tonight. Trade him. 20 goals. Trade him. Probably get a first and a prospect back in return.
So I'm going to round back
Go ahead.
how I think about the Bruins played. But I want to ask you this question, and then also for all of you that I'm now watching chime away into the comments, this one's for you too. So you get to say. With the culture problem and the leadership problem on this Bruins team, if Brad Marchand is traded or walks in free agency, who wears the C within the next 2 seasons? That's silence, everybody. That's thought.
I just said that he probably shouldn't even have an A But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be Charlie McAvoy because Coyle is a guy who's a leadership guy, probably going to get traded. Carlo is a leadership guy, probably going to get traded. It's probably McAvoy, and I don't think he's ready for it. Maybe if he's captain, he'll stop deferring to guys. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that would actually help him. But it'll be McAvoy probably will get to see. Maybe they'll give it a Pastrnak.
I was about to ask you, why not Pastrnak, and why did you skip right over him? Does he not feel serious enough to be a captain or something?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's his, his overall game. He's not really he's a
superstar, not
he's not really a grinding kind of, but I mean, I guess McDavid isn't. So, there's guys out there that wear he is their best player by a mile. And he probably should be getting Hart votes. So fuck it. Let's give it a Pastrnak because I already said McAvoy doesn't really deserve it. Pastrnak should be the captain.
They trade Marchand. Pasternak's going to be the most talented player by like a country mile on this team.
He is already. Even with Marchand on the team, he is already.
This is probably my favorite option for center.
Everybody's saying Pastrnak does not need more pressure. Pasta doesn't want to see. Pasta is a good scorer, not a leader. All that stuff is probably true. But who else would you give it to is the problem. You're not going
to acquire.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean,
god awful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who you would give it to. That's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. So I mean, it really is. That's an issue. So we should all drink on that. And I'm going to be drinking Bruins Benders Bar Down IPA. That's my sip tonight. You guys can all chime in with what you're drinking, because if you're not drinking after watching that game, I don't know what's going on.
You're probably smoking. Cheers, Smitty.
Cheers.
Anywho,
that's just legal in Massachusetts, so you're good.
And it's legal here in Illinois. So
all right, so good. There we go. Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
Yep.
Anywho, one of the things that I texted you while watching this game is in the fallout of 8.25, just a few times, not too egregious. But it seemed like the Bruins were in who's next mode. Like, who is next to get traded off this team? And now they are completely shook that this is probably the first time they've traded a core player off the team in almost 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a core player. And I don't.
Sarcasm.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say about the team. I really don't. We talk about it so often and we say the same things over and over again, and you get to a point where you run out of things to say without repeating yourself again and again and again. It's the same mistakes. It's the same bullshit over and over and over. And that's where we are. That's where we are with the whole thing. We say the same stuff. They do the same stuff. They come into the post game and say the same shit over and over again. Well, we got to be better. We got to work harder. I don't know why we didn't start fast enough. Like, why didn't you start fast enough? You're fighting for your fucking playoff lives, and you come out like absolute ass against one of the worst fucking teams in the entire league. Like, why didn't you start quicker? Why don't you have a sense of urgency? Where is that? Why don't we have players that have that? You have to fire them up somehow? Like, where's self-motivation? Do we have any guys who are actually self-motivated that will actually go out on their own and start on fucking time? Sorry,
Let me ask you a question. If you are in agreement that the players got Monty and Cassidy fired intentionally. Are they doing the same thing to Don Sweeney now? Have they had enough of Don Sweeney and his roster building to try and just give up on this roster and organization in the time being?
No, I don't think they.
Is that too tinfoil hatty?
Yeah, I think so. That's a little too conspiracy theory for me. I don't think they see Sweeney enough. I don't think they. I don't really think they blame him for the roster. I mean, they probably do, subconsciously blame him, but I don't know if they are coming out and just being like, it's his fault, we suck. Like, I think they thought they were good. Like McAvoy said it early on in the season, like, we'll find our game and we'll be fine, kind of a thing. They were like, you don't lose the playoffs in September or whatever. They were all.
What's that U2 song? Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, it is. It's a great song, by the way.
That's probably on his workout routine.
Yeah, I don't think they blame. I don't think Sweeney is at the forefront of their minds as far as the. I think like you said, I think they were probably a little bit frightened about, am I going to be the next one traded? So they were playing a little tight. Then you got a bunch of guys who, shouldn't be there anyways, like Osterley, and I know he scored, but Osterley and Wotherspoon on the same pair, and they go out right after you score a goal, and Nashville just taps one in from the top of the paint because, you can't, box guys out, or you can't play well defensively in your own zone. You're just running around like assholes. Those guys aren't, they're like 8th, 9th, 10th defensemen on good teams. Like they're depth. They're not guys who should be playing, a lot of minutes for a good team. And the Bruins aren't a good team, so they're in there and playing. So there you have it. But that's where the roster deficiencies kind of, rear their ugly head. You see this stuff all the time. It's bad play. It's not having enough depth on defense or offense. I mean, it's an incomplete roster, as Sweens himself has said.
Self-admitted.
Yes.
Do you have any other comments on the actual game that you want to touch on before we get into the debauchery?
Sure, it fucking sucked.
Cool. Perfect. Yep. Great way to bookend it. Into the fun stuff. They got in early. Liam Perkins, first one on the list. Freddie is gone. Thank the Lord. I thought about getting some church hymn music or something to play, and we could pay our respects to Freddie, but maybe we could do that tomorrow on the episode, and on the next episode, if anybody else gets traded, we'll give them a little eulogy and light their funeral pyre for them. Dan good. Maynard, I just can't believe they actually made a trade, good or bad. Now make more trades, for fuck's sake. Sorry, John.
Yeah, he's right.
Smitty, you were on board here that I am not going to believe it until I see it. Mm-hmm. And for fuck's sake, here we go. We saw one.
Yeah, we saw one. So now I want them in rapid fire succession. I feel like they should be like, before the guy leaves the locker room, they should just be like, hey, Brando, sorry, buddy. You're going to
peace.
You're going to Calgary, or you're going to, Edmonton or somewhere. Winnipeg. You're going to Winnipeg for a first.
Ooh, that would be spicy. Do you think that a loss like this to a team like that, when they've already started to sell, will spur them on anymore? Or no?
It fucking better. Fucking better spur them on.
If I was the general manager,
if you watch that game and you were like, I think we're close. I think we're still only a couple points out of the playoffs. If you watch that fucking game against that horseshit team and was like, we're right there. I think there's still a chance for us. You're a fucking more delusional than I thought. might have some kind of syndrome or something like that. If you're Don Sweeney and you watch this game and you think that the team is actually good, like some kind of dementia or something like that, where some rare disease where your brain eats away at itself or something like that. If you watch this team and think they have a chance of doing anything positively, not even in the playoffs, just in general, anything positively outside of David Pastrnak, name me one positive about this Bruins hockey team this season. And we'll leave this open to the comments too. Outside of David Pastrnak, one positive thing about this Bruins team all year long. I'll wait.
I would say Mason Lohrei has been a positive development. He's showing me more and more in the absence of Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm and being able to play so many more minutes and in specific opportunities, especially on the power play, that he is going to be something. It might not be a number one, might not be a number two, but he's probably going to be that Brandon Carlo-ish player for the Bruins on the offensive side of the puck. Not really going to give you much defense, but he can skate really well. He knows where to go to get pucks. He has good offensive
instincts.
Aura.
Yeah.
Instincts.
I will give you that. He has improved. So I will give you that.
And the second.
Oh, you got two?
No, I've got two.
Mr. fucking Sunshine over there.
I'm Sunshine. You got to call me Dale Arnold if I pull out three.
Okay.
There's a Bruins Benders post-game live after every game.
Well, I mean, that's a given.
It's a layup. Somebody mentioned it in the comments early on in the show, so I had to toss that in there.
Yeah, you got to read that one because
we'll get to it. It's somewhere in here.
That pumps my tires a little bit, so I like that.
Matthew Curtis. This is going to end up being a 3 to 4 year retool. It's not going to be the quick fix.
Probably not. But if they do enough in this offseason or at this trade deadline, with clearing out some bad contracts or some players who aren't going to be a part of your future, give themselves enough cap space to be able to sign some legitimate talent, then I think they can, they could get back to the playoffs next year, even if they do the right things. But, that's a big if. They also need some other things to happen there. They need Jeremy Swayman to rebound. They need the team defense to find themselves again, find their identity again. The Bruins team defense that's been kind of the hallmark of their team for a number of years is gone right now. Gone. Nowhere to be found. And they need to find that. So, there's some things that need to happen, but if they handle the cap well and handle some of these assets and move guys out that aren't a part of the future, Swayman rebounds, they could be pretty good next year again. You still have Pastrnak, you still have McAvoy, you still have Swayman, and depending on who else, I'm not sure who else will be around, but
hopefully not too many.
Yeah, but so you have like some core pieces that are pretty good. Pastrnak's elite, and McAvoy's pretty good to good. I saw actually a list today where they listed the tiers of defensemen, and they had Makar and Quinn Hughes at the top, and then they had a list of 5 that were, called superstars, and then the next tier was elite, and he was in that next tier. So somewhere in the 7 to 12 range, McAvoy, which I would agree with, I think. So you got some pieces there. You got some pieces. If you can put some stuff around those guys, then you might be okay next year. You might be sniffing the playoffs again, I think. But they still have a lot of work to do, certainly.
T-Boz sipping on a Knob Creek 9-year special reserve, 120 proof, super smooth.
You got to go with the high proof on a game like this. Might as well drink rubbing alcohol or gasoline or something. It's fine.
Stammer on a 13-game pointless streak. Dr. T-Boz prescribed playing a shit team like the Boston Bruins.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The Bruins are everyone else's Viagra. Like everybody else gets, everybody else gets hard when they play the Bruins. And Bruins are a bunch of lip dicks out there just floating around doing nothing. It's depressing. Really is.
Really is. Here you go. Liam Perkins. I respect that you guys do this podcast every game for this garbage team. You guys are the bright spot of the team.
There we go, Liam. Thank you. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. We do appreciate that you guys come here after these games, especially the losses, and keep us company and entertain us while we try to make our way through this horseshit year and terrible team. So hopefully good things are around the corner, because I'd much rather be watching the Bruins in the playoffs than doing this shit, for sure.
For sure. Matthew Curtis, well on our way to a top 10 pick. If we can double dip in the first round and make a big signing this summer, maybe we can sniff the playoffs again in 25-26. Now, here's my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
The retool and rebuild is probably going to teeter on player number 4. So I think the Bruins can trade 3 players off this roster, and you're still in the retool area. And that 4th player immediately is going to tip you into the rebuild, because you're more than likely going to trade. Well, you've already traded Frederick, so there's one. You're probably going to trade Brandon Carlo and then Brazeau. If you trade one more, whether it be Geeky, Coyle, or Marchand, you flip that over to there is too many pieces off of this roster too quick that you just can't replace.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
As much as I would love to see that happen, and I implore Don Sweeney to do that, that will be a rebuild, not a retool.
I would agree with that. I think unless they're blown away by a package from Morgan Geeky, I think he stays and signs an extension. The Marchand thing, I think, is up in the air now, especially after he's hurt. And I don't know if everyone heard, but he's week to week now. So that kind of puts a damper on his trade market, I would think.
I doubt it. It's Brad Marchand. He's at a palatable cap hit. If the Bruins are willing to eat 50% of Trent Frederick, they'll eat 50% of Brad Marchand, who's only owed $1 million in actual salary for a $6 million AAV. So it is a drop in the bucket. And at $3 million, every single contender in this league should be able to make that deal work and get a high-end prospect and a first-round pick in exchange. Hands down. No matter if he's out 2 to 3 weeks past the deadline, you know that Brad Marchand's going to show up in the playoffs and he's going to perform.
Well, the only thing I would put a caveat on that is, what if he's not ready for the playoffs? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like that.
If he's not ready for the beginning of the playoffs?
Like, yeah. Like if he's not ready for the playoffs, like if it's week to week and it's, many weeks and he's not ready to start the playoffs, is that like, if they look at his medicals and be like, oh, he's going to be out for,
that would probably be a different story. Like if he has to miss the entire first round,
right,
a team's probably just going to say, never mind, not this year.
That's what I mean. That's what concerns me about it.
But I don't think it's that way, the way that some of these insiders have termed it.
You're thinking that it's gonna carry him up to maybe the end of the regular season.
I don't even think that. I think it might be a 2 to 3 week extent. Some of these insiders are like, he's probably not going to play before the deadline. And then they termed it week to week. So I'm leaning more that it's on the shorter end. Boston always overshoots their injuries, except for Hampus Lindholm, who had the setback.
Yeah.
But they always give the long term, or they get extremely vague and a player comes back sooner than expected. Always.
Okay.
I don't know why. Just maybe they just want us to be surprised.
My take is that they should trade all those guys. Seriously. Trade them all. Coyle's on the wrong side of 30 and was awful this year. Geeky could get a lot for right now, I think. And as an RFA and a guy who's had a career year now, I'm not sure you want to pay that. I'm not sure you want to pay for that. Mm-mm. I mean, maybe you do, because he was, he's one of the only other guys on the team that can score goals. So, maybe you can work something out there. But, in Marchand, I agree. If there's, if there's contenders out there looking and you can get a first and a prospect, do it. Like, you need to do it. You need to get to the top of the draft and get some impact players and sign some impact players in free agency, and then, build around those guys. I would rather start from the top of the roster down instead of the other way there, Sweens. If you could indulge me and not sign all the fourth line guys first, so we can leave some money for the players that are actually talented, I would appreciate it. So, that's what I'd like to see happen. All the trades. Now that they're going to do it, trade all, just do it. Go all in. If you're going to do it, go all in.
New Hampshire Bruin. We should talk about whether Maddie is coming home from Punta Cana with a kid or not, instead of talking about the Bruins.
Are you saying that he kidnapped a 3-year-old?
The babysitting never stopped, allegedly.
Yeah. He is not a kidnapper. I know him firsthand. He's actually a good guy. That's funny though, because I think he might have
1 in 9 months or something.
No, well, he's not.
We don't wish that evil on you, Maddie. Sorry.
I don't think he's been snipped, but he may have been.
Questions we'll have to ask on the next.
Yeah, we might have to.
Commenters, don't let us down.
He's not a big fan at this point in his life of little kids. So the fact that he watched a 3-year-old is very surprising to me. Very surprising.
He must have been bribed.
And he probably was.
Maybe
he was already drunk.
I mean, hey, who cares when you're on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Shaz Diet will not be watching the rest of the season. And if he were Pastrnak, he would be asking for a trade because he doesn't believe this management will do anything to make this team a contender. Smitty, do you think David Pastrnak would ever request a trade off the Boston Bruins?
Yes, I do think he would.
Do you think it would come after a year like this, or it would come, say, maybe this summer after trading 4 or 5 players off your roster?
I feel like after next year, or maybe 2 years down the line, so in another year or two, if they have a couple more seasons like this one, he will ask to be traded. Because it's too much of a burden on one guy. He's been doing it by himself now for already like 2 or 3 years. I guess with the exception of some help from Marchand. But even last year, he had 110 points. Marchand had 69. So he's not getting help from other people. He's doing it by himself. And he's doing it by himself this year. So that's 2 years in a row by himself. If he has to do it again next year by himself, and then the following year by himself, yeah, he's going to ask to be traded. That's 4 years of having to do it by yourself and the team's not very good and you're either middling or missing the playoffs, yeah, he'll ask. He'll be like, fuck this place. See you later. Either that or he'll pull a David Krejci and be like, I'm going back to the Czech Republic and I'm playing there. Fuck all y'all.
That would Peace. Be a bitch. Do a Chechen Kovalchuk.
Yeah. I mean, he won't do that, but
probably not.
That was just
being dramatic. We get it.
Exactly.
Sean Michael, what's our cap space now with the trades? The current cap space is about 1.6 million.
Oh,
and 1.7 at the deadline.
Okay, I thought he was asking for like going into next year. I believe at the current time they'll have 24.5, I think, next year to spend, or in the off season to spend. If that's what he was asking, I'm not sure.
I think we covered both sides, so who cares?
There you go.
Nikki Canuck, Smitty for GM, Matty for president, Connor coach. Winning combo for the Bruins.
I like that, but I'd like to be the president because I don't want to work for Matt.
Okay, I'll be the GM. Dibs.
Matt can coach.
He's the fucking basketball coach.
He is a coach. He is a coach. He's coached the hell out of people. He gets people to play for him. I've coached with him actually at times, so he does get people to play for him. So he is a inspirer of young men and women. But so I feel like, yeah, that would be a good setup.
He's a coach. System. He's an inspirer of the youth. He's a babysitter. He's a podcaster. He's a fucking Renaissance Matty. You know?
He is. He's the most interesting man in the world.
One of the most interesting fucking men in the world.
And he looks like Pitbull if you throw some aviators on him and a Latin shirt. He looks like Pitbull.
T-Boz, why don't we hear about Sweeney saying that we are an incompetent team going into the season?
Incomplete.
Sort of forward. He is the problem.
Yes, T-Boz, he is the problem. And if people have been listening to me, and people don't generally listen to me because I'm full of wind most of the time, but I have been saying that for quite some time. He should have been gone already. He should have been gone in the offseason, along with Montgomery, if they knew they were going to go in a different direction for the type of players they were going to bring in. That's not Montgomery's style. That's not what he coaches. And they kind of left him out there as a lame duck for this season. And halfway through, he was like, fuck this place. Why should I try? And put his hands in his pockets. And then, the team reflected that, and then they had to fire him. And then you get Joe Sacco, who's captain positivity back there. It doesn't matter if you lose 7-2.
Sacco shit.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's not devastating though. It's disappointing. Only disappointing. Not devastating.
T-Boz with a little Jaffe and Razor slander. They're fucking tools. They're sucking the Nessun teat to do their Cup of Joe podcast. So my question to you, Mr. T-Boz and or listeners, is what real podcasts out there do you prefer to listen to?
What I love about that comment, especially, is that he did not call their podcast by its real name. I'm not going to give it its real name, but I like the fact that he just made it up, a random.
We can't slander,
No, we're not going to.
They really brought it out here.
Look, we had Jaffe on our old podcast back in the day, and he was great with us, and he's a great guy. We asked that Razor on, but he never came on. But Jaffe was great. I like Jaffe actually. So, and I think as you were saying earlier tonight, he was kind of letting the team have it tonight. He's one of the few guys on Nessun in general that criticizes the team. Barry Peterson will do it some too. But Dale's sunshine and rainbows. So I like that Jaffe's pretty honest about the team. I mean, you can only go on NESN being the broadcast partner of the Bruins. You can only go to a certain degree. You can't do what we do here. But he takes it about as far as he can on NESN, I would say. But if you want to come for real analysis, can't even say with a straight face, come here. If you want to come for real analysis.
If you want to come right here for that analysis, absolute children.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Bruins 1970. Carlo's no trade clause. I pulled it up. He has a 10-team no trade clause this season, 8-team next year, and then a 3-team the year after that.
I bet you that part of his 10-team no trade are a majority of the Canadian teams. So, I bet Winnipeg is on that list. I bet Edmonton is on that list. I bet Calgary is on that list. I bet, I think a lot of those teams that are inquiring about him are on that list, because I think it may have happened already if they weren't.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. But I mean, a first and a prospect is what people are throwing around for Brandon Carlo. So if that's what you could get in return, you should have done it. So, yeah.
I mean, the Bruins have a lot of valuable assets out there for what's on the market. They could get a few first-round picks for what they have available, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if the Bruins can get to the top of the lottery. There's 4 or 5 guys that are supposed to be, really good by all accounts. If they get, 3 or 4 first-round picks out of a haul of trades, you might be able to package a couple of those and move up into the top 5, and you'll have your own pick. So you might end up with 3 picks in the first round, and maybe 2 of them are in the lottery.
Do you remember how that worked out for Sweeney last time?
Well, it was Joe Thornton and Sergei Samsonov for who was it? Mike O'Connell, pick 1 and pick 8.
Oh, so, no.
No, I know. No, I know 13, 14, 15, and 2015. I know.
He wanted to package up real well, and then he was a fucking sackless goof, as somebody likes to say.
Somebody does like to say that.
He got a whole lot of his fucking junk left in his hand, and the last one at the dance, beating his meat in the fucking high school bathroom.
I mean, that's true, but at the same time, he didn't need to take Zach's initiation. He didn't.
Absolutely not.
He didn't.
He could have just let somebody else.
But so there's opportunities there. If you can make some trades, there's some opportunities, and there's some pretty good players at the top of this draft. So, you can go up and get a franchise center and a scoring winger, or a franchise center and another, top 2, top 4 defenseman. Not that those guys will play right away, maybe, but
allegedly
that's a pretty good start to rebuilding things.
I have heard from some draft people that the hot take that's becoming a not so hot take is that nobody from this upcoming draft will play immediately in the NHL next season.
Yeah, I would buy that. I mean, that's not something that happens all the time.
No, you usually see it in the top 3 or at least the top 2, but to have a draft where no players come in to the NHL the next season is kind of glaring to me. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's even a question. As far as I can remember, there's always been at least one person who is just lights out. They can play in the NHL next year.
Yeah. I mean, so this coming year is not the Gavin McKenna draft. That is the following year, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
2020. So maybe you package a first and whatever to pop a first into next year, so you have a couple of more shots at McKenna if it's possible.
Or you just ask for next year's first. And
I mean, if he's and by all accounts, he's a generational talent. Like, I would consider that. Like, if you can put some of your eggs in that basket and see if you can take a shot at a chance to land him, then that's a guy who's going to come in and probably play right away.
I mean, the Jacobs family has a lot of sway in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of you guys subscribe to the conspiracy theories that the NHL rigs the draft for the important teams in the league, but we would probably qualify as the Boston Bruins in that scenario. So if Boston sucks next year and is in the lottery, you can almost bet your house that they would win the number 1 overall pick if they finish that low.
I hope so. We need a, they've been handing fucking the Pittsburgh Penguins first round picks like it's going out of style when there's been generational talents involved. So let's send a few of those to this team that was the original black and gold team, the Bruins, not the Penguins. Penguins were in light blue, like the pussies they are. Okay. And then stole their colors. So they should give us some help.
They should. That would be very, very kind, very generous. T. Hakala. Merkelov's finally getting a chance, but he's got to hit the net. And I will say, this is the fucking best opportunity he's ever going to get. With the trades that are happening and the injuries in the lineup, he's going to get the top 6 opportunity, and he's just got to not suck. And we're going to talk about Jaffe again. He was on the broadcast talking about how Merkulov's going to get a long look here, and he needs to start taking care of the opportunities that he gets when playing with talented players.
He does.
Next up, KHL. Beep, beep.
Yeah, he had 7 shot attempts tonight, which is great. But 1 on goal, 4 missed the net, and 2 were blocked. So I like that he's trying to 7
in that department.
I like that he's trying to shoot, but we got to do a better job of getting either the puck through to the net or hitting the net, and not getting our shot blocked. So he's got some work to do. But again, like I said the other day, he wasn't very good in the last game, but no one else was either. And now he got another chance, and I thought he was a little bit better today, but, the team as a whole, not so much. But he should keep getting chances, and we need to see where he's at, when this season ends and decide whether he's part of the future going forward.
Who do you think has a better success rate on their shots taken? Georgi Merkulov or Matty Berry in the DR?
Matty Berry in the DR.
Jesus Christ, you're sounding like these fucking brown nosers on Nesson now. Just rubbing it all in, Matty.
Yep.
Shaz Diet. Next 7 games. Carolina, Tampa, Florida, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Vegas. And the only team out of that bunch who is probably out of it, who you should beat.
Don't say that.
Who you should beat.
Don't say that.
Who you should fucking beat is the Buffalo Sabres.
I guess.
But you should beat the Nashville Predators.
Yeah. You should. You should beat the New York Islanders too. Should beat the Anaheim Ducks too.
Oof, get them.
Right?
Roasted.
So you can't say they should beat anyone. You're looking at a bottom 5 team in the league. They have a worse goal differential than Buffalo. So Buffalo should probably beat them, really, realistically. Probably won't happen now that I said that. But they're not, they shouldn't be favorites against anyone. They really shouldn't. They're not good enough to be favorites. And they think they are for some reason. They think they're, just going to roll through teams, especially when they get a lead. They're just like, oh yeah, we can, slam the brakes on. We'll just coast the rest of the way. And then they give up goal after goal after goal. Especially right after they score. They love that thing. Bruins score, then the other team comes back, less than 2 minutes later, scores.
Bing bong.
It's fun.
It's all
fun if you're if you like, electro shocks to the nipples, it's fun. I mean, it's just
frustrating.
Pain and suffering is what it is. It's pain and suffering.
Speaking of pain and suffering, Rowan B throwing out the thoughts and the prayers for the current and the future season ticket holders. And I will say, I have seen a good amount of people on Twitter who have been vocal that they are season ticket holders who are canceling their tickets, not doing it anymore. Too expensive.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I've seen that. I saw a friend of ours on Twitter who had tickets, I believe, for 7 years, and she's giving them up. She said it's too expensive. The team's not worth watching anymore. So that will send a message to ownership, if nothing else will.
That's what I was going to ask you is, if the fire Sweeney chants don't matter because the Jacobs family don't attend any of the games.
Yeah.
Do you think when they start getting those email memos about all the people canceling their tickets or about how many empty seats there are, or their buddies in the NHL that own other teams start sending them screenshots of what the arena looked like and, you fucking piece of shit. Can't even fill your arena anymore.
The season ticket renewal percentage will tell a story to the ownership. And that will hit harder probably than any fire Sweeney chants or anything else that they'll see. And I wonder if Rowan B was I don't know if he's still listening, but my son played hockey with a Rowan B way back when. And he had one of the best nicknames I've ever heard in my life.
What is it?
As an 8-year-old. So his last name, I have to do it now, but I hope I'm not giving up, blowing up this guy's spot. But his last name was Bulger. And his nickname
they called him Whitey?
His nickname was Whitey.
Fucking A. That's a fucking Boston nickname right there.
It is a Boston nickname, and it's a boss nickname. Coolest nickname I've ever heard in a hockey, in hockey, really.
While we're waiting on that, Michigan Mike, the only thing that's 3 years old that Maddie would kidnap is some vodka. And that sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, Maddie's he's an equal opportunity drinker. He'll throw down some margaritas like nobody's business. He'll go with the vodka drinks. He loves a gin and tonic, like big time. He's a big gin guy, and he likes the things that taste good. He's not a big bourbon guy. He's not a big whiskey guy. He likes.
Well, let's be real honest. You gas up the bus and let me take Maddie's corpse and get ready to throw it in front. But Maddie fucking loves the really fruity,
drinks. Yes, he is 100% a fruity drink guy. He's a fruity beer guy. He's not a big bourbon guy.
Somebody who doesn't drink at all, ever, period.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's the fruity drink guy.
Oh, that's a tough call. That's a tough one.
Because I don't drink at all, ever. I haven't in like 15 years.
Yeah, but you get your highs in other ways.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a complete fucking Grinch.
Yeah, so I mean, look, if he can. I love the kid. I love the man too much to throw him under the bus for drinking fruity drinks, because I'll drink a fruity drink too. I'm not ashamed to say I'll have a strawberry daiquiri or a pina colada usually when I'm on vacation. But yeah, I mean, whatever. I am equal opportunity drinker. I'll drink anything pretty much.
Is there a rule that the temperature has to be over a certain amount, or be in swim shorts to drink the fruity drinks?
Yes.
There's some stipulations.
Yeah, 100%. You can't
I've
roll.
seen Matty in full garb doing a show while somebody's passing him fruity drinks.
Yeah, you can't be in Maine in 20-degree weather drinking a frozen strawberry daiquiri with an umbrella in it and a slice of pineapple. No, I'll call bullshit on that thing. That's not allowed.
One of Matty's faves. Bruins 1970 keeps reading about Jack Eichel coming to the Boston Bruins. Pipe dream.
Pipe dream of all pipe dreams. I think he likes Vegas. I think they have a good team. Maybe he'll get tired of Cassidy like everybody else does. I've heard some rumblings that he had some run-ins with some people there, and he's not.
Shocker.
He's not the easiest guy to play for. We'll call it that.
But Vegas is vicious. Do you think that they could move on from him?
Yeah, I mean, possibly, but I feel like they are collectors of talent. So if there's talent out there, they go and get it, and they don't particularly care about the ramifications down the road. And I think that's why they won a cup as early as they did in their history, is because they were bold and made bold moves and went for it when they had the opportunities to. So I don't think he would be really looking to leave. And by the time that he would come to Boston, it would probably be like a late in the career on the downside. Like,
yep.
You've
already wasted it. You got it. You should have gotten him from Buffalo if that's what you wanted.
Exactly.
And Matthew Curtis did chime in. Eichel said he'd wanted to play in Boston several times. And going off of what you just said, I feel like that acquisition at this point in his career would be like when John Tavares left the Islanders to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. He had already had a very long established career, and he went to play the back nine in his little Maple Leafs jammies. And
right. Look,
would be back in Boston.
Yeah. Eichel's still relatively young. I just don't see it happening within the next few years. I feel like it would
be 2 years from now.
Yeah. So 2 years from now, I think he re-signs with Vegas. And then, maybe towards the end of that contract, he would be looking to come to Boston. But you're talking about maybe 6.
You'll be like fucking 70 by the time this guy plays for the Boston Bruins.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think by the time it ends up happening, or could happen potentially, it will be, not necessarily not worth it, but probably not worth it.
Probably. I'm not trying to say it's not worth it,
but probably not worth it.
But it's probably not worth it.
Yep.
But you know what is worth it, Smitty?
What?
Do you know what time it is?
No.
Take it away. This is what's worth it.
Oh, it's time to go? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. You can use the coupon code Sorry John to get 20% off your online orders at InsideTheRink.com. You can buy some merch. You can buy that wonderful T-shirt from Mason Lowride Jack Eichel lookalike right there. Get fucking bent. And we will be back at this thing. Jesus, when is it? Thursday?
We will be back on the post-game live Thursday night.
Yes, when the Bruins travel
to Matty Worldwide. Mr. Matty will be back too.
Yeah, we should have Matty Worldwide. We should be full Voltron for Thursday night. Matty will be back, and the Bruins will face the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina. And if there's any trades or anything coming up here in the next day or so, stay tuned for our regular episodes. Should be out towards the end of the week.
Thursday morning, it should be.
When? Thursday morning? Yeah, Thursday morning. So if anything happens within then, check that out. And as always, I guess, go Bruins.
Have a good night. And Matty from Punta Cana drinks up. Back to work tomorrow.